Hi! Today we are doing the very exciting wrap up for June. Let's just get into it. I really don't have much to say. I read 7 books this month. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I've been debating on whether or not to keep doing wrap ups anyway, because I make reading vlogs for almost every book I read, and almost every book I read is featured in some kind of video. Wrap-ups have just begun to feel repetitive and irrelevant, I don't know. But then, in terms of like views, people seem to like them, so I don't know. We'll see. Let me know if you have any opinion on if I should keep doing these or not. But I'm just gonna go rapid fire, make this a fun, quick little video, hopefully under 10 minutes maybe. All of my videos lately have been very long, so I think it'd be nice to just have a quick short little video, plus 7 books, not that many. So let's go. First book I finished on the 2nd of June was I Kissed Shara Wheeler. That was 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I picked it up for the mystery aspect and ended up enjoying it for the romance aspect of it. And like I said in my Pride Reads for Pride Month video, it handled being queer very well. So in general, really good book. I enjoyed it. No complaints. Next, I read Heir of Fire, and that was a 4.75. This book really got me back into Throne of Glass, and the second half of the book was what like gave it that high of a rating, because the first half I was still recovering from the Throne of Glass reading slump that Crown of Midnight left me in, and it got me super duper excited for Queen of Shadows, which I would say I'm halfway-ish with right now. Overall though, the series is very meh for me compared to ACOTAR. It feels like let's say Queen of Shadows, what I'm reading right now. It has approximately 600 pages, but it feels like 300 of those pages is nothing happening. And it's felt that way with almost all of her books, the worst being Crown of Midnight. But all of them, it's like the 300 pages of action in the 600 page book is top tier for me. But the other 300 pages make me want to die. So it's just hard to get through, and I'm not really liking the series that much because of that. I don't necessarily hate the series either, but it's like it's not going to be ACOTAR for me. It's not going to be like a Margaret Rogerson book for me. And in general, I'm just becoming very disappointed now that I've like reached the halfway point of the series-ish. I'm really sad about it, to be honest. And I'm very nervous because I still have to Tandem read Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. And then Kingdom of Ash is 1,000. It's just disappointing that this entire series is nearly 5,000 pages, and I did do the math. It's nearly 5,000 pages, and at this rate, only 2,500 of those 5,000 pages are interesting to me. You know, like, it feels like I'm wasting time. It feels like I could be reading other things. So it is disappointing, but I have made it this far, so I really don't want to stop, and I am invested in the story, but I was really trying to prioritize reading it instead of listening to the audiobook, because obviously, like, reading it, you absorb more of the story, and I think I'm gonna stop doing that and just try and get through it, because I can always reread it. If it ends up being amazing, I can always reread it. I always have that option. So that is where I'm at. Not great, not the worst. It's just, yeah. But I really did enjoy Heir of Fire though. That was a 4.75. I think it's my favorite book of the month. I like left it on such a high because of Rowan and Manon, and I think I really, really loved Heir of Fire too, because that's where magic actually started to like become a real thing. And because of what is happening in Rifthold, it just, no magic, it's just fighting and like talking, and I just find it a bit boring. I don't mind fantasy politics, but I do need more fantasy. Like, it's the same that I felt with Bridge Kingdom, where it's like, it's interesting, but it's not really, the only thing fantasy so far is the world, you know? And that's just kind of how I'm feeling with the series, even though obviously there is magic, but it's like, I'm halfway through, where's the magic? I've had half a book. I've had 300 pages of magic. And the word key stuff, it's just like, it's just symbols. It doesn't feel that magical. Anyway, that's where I'm at. Oh, and I finished Heir of Fire on the 8th of June. The next book that I finished was on the 9th of June, and that was She Drives Me Crazy. That was also a part of my Pride Reads for Pride Month. So I gave that 3 stars. The main character was a little annoying to me and very sappy, which she's going through heartbreak, so it's fine. But overall, you know, I I'm not in the middle. It was just a cute read, and that's really all it was, which is why I got the rating that it did. It's good, I would recommend it, but it's nothing outstanding to me, I guess you could say. So I enjoyed it though. I would recommend it. It was cute. Next I read Count Your Lucky Stars, and I finished that on the 16th of June, and I gave that a 2.25. And unfortunately that one was just a flop. It was just one giant miscommunication trope, and like literally this book wouldn't exist if the two characters just spoke to each other. So I wasn't feeling it, I guess you could say. And then on the 20th of June, I finished Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating, and I gave that a 3.5 stars. Again, it was very cute, very fluffy. I really liked it. It did touch on issues of queerhood, toxic friendships, being a minority in both nationality / ethnicity and religion. So it was a very interesting read. Overall, like, cannot complain at all about it. The reason it didn't get higher was because, again, I just didn't feel that invested into the story. It was just a cute, fun time, and I enjoyed it. I would recommend it, but again, I think this would mean a lot more to someone a little bit younger than I am, and I think that was like the main reason why it didn't like hit for me. I think if I read this in school, it would have meant a lot more, or not a lot more, but it would have hit harder. So that's where I'm at. It's definitely a very cute young adult story though. I did love it, would recommend it. Next, I finished Serpent and the Wings of Night, and I finished it on the 27th of June, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Originally I gave it 4, and then I bumped it up to 4.5. It's a weird book because I loved it, and I wanted to start the sequel immediately, so I read like the first 2 chapters and then I stopped and I started Never Lie, which is the next book I'm talking about, and I kind of just lost all interest in the series. And book 2 especially kind of just feels like what I said about Throne of Glass, like a bunch of nothing is happening. So it's just frustrating, I guess, and slow. So I feel weird about the series right now. That being said, despite what TikTok says, it's not ACOTAR, it's not Hunger Games. If you are looking for Hunger Games but with vampires, I do think this is the closest that you'll get to it, unless you just read a fanfiction. But it's still not Hunger Games. Like, just because it's a deadly tournament doesn't mean it's like Hunger Games. Like, it's completely different. You know, like Hunger Games is just for the entertainment of rich people, whereas this is like to get a wish from a literal goddess. So really not the same. It could give you the same feelings though as reading those books, but it's not the same, so please do not go into it thinking that you're guessing that, because you won't be. That being said though, it was still very good. I absolutely loved the tournaments. I had no clue what each was about, like, going into them, so it was really fun finding out what each tournament was and how it worked and everything. And despite how I feel about the sequel and like losing interest, I was enthralled with this first book. When I started it, I didn't want to put it down. I was picking it up every chance that I got. It was really, really good. I really, really did enjoy it. So as of right now, it seems that my issues largely lie with book 2, which might resolve soon, you know, and I am filming a reading vlog for this duet, so you'll definitely have more in-depth thoughts from me regarding that. But overall, good book, enjoyed it, interesting, would recommend, 4.5. And then last, but most certainly not least, on the 30th of June, I finished Never Lie by Frieda McFadden. Reading vlog also coming out for that one because it was my first Frieda McFadden book. It was a 4-star. It was so good. I loved it. I understand why people love her plot twists. I was not expecting anything that happened to happen. I knew the person I was convinced was the bad person probably wouldn't be the bad person or the main bad person because it's Frieda McFadden, but I still had fun. Even though I knew I was wrong, I still had fun. So I really am happy that I decided to pick this book up as my first Frieda McFadden. The premise really just interested me. I heard it and just immediately tried to find where I could read it. I went to my library first, and then I saw it was on Kindle Unlimited, and I only have it for a month. So I was like, I'm picking it up right now. And I put everything else I was reading on hold to finish it. And it was so good and so worth it. And I'm happy that I started with this one because, again, the premise really, really drew me and interested me. And I think that was the perfect way to start with Frieda, because I've heard a lot of good things about the Housemaid, but I feel like if I started with that one, I wouldn't have liked her as much. And I don't know why. It's just the premise doesn't really interest me as much. It's like, if you were to rate the interest levels in terms of 5 stars, the interest level of Never Lie, according to the premise, for me was a 5-star, whereas the Housemaid's interest level in stars would be like 3 stars, if that makes more sense. So I'm happy that I started with this one. It was a really good, perfect little gateway drug to her. So very good, would recommend. Please read it. So those are all of the books that I read in June. However, I do believe I have some DNFs. The first DNF was, unfortunately, The Rising Retreat by Julia Bartz, and I'm gonna pick it up again at some point. I really regret DNFing it, but I was reading it, I wasn't listening to it, and it really creeped me out. I don't really do paranormal things. Ghosts scare the absolute living daylights out of me. I read one horror book once, The Haunting of Gillespie House by Darcy Coates. I couldn't be home alone. It was in the middle of the day. As you can probably tell, I have giant windows with a lot of sunlight. I would still have to keep the lights of the bathroom on where there isn't a window because I was too scared to go in there in the dark. Because if you haven't read that book, it is a paranormal book, but the darkness is kind of the villain in it. I know it doesn't make sense, but trust me, that's the best way to describe it. So the darkness is the bad guy. The darkness is the scary guy. And I kind of just felt the same feelings with The Rising Retreat because it is not a paranormal book. I started it and it didn't say anything about paranormal, and I checked over and over again. It's not paranormal. However, The Rising Retreat, all the women at The Rising Retreat are horror novelists, and a lot of them are writing ghost stories and playing ghost games and stuff like that. So even though it's not a paranormal book with ghosts, there's still a lot of ghost talk, and I am a baby. I'm an absolute baby when it comes to ghosts. I get so easily scared, and I just got so freaked out. So I ended up DNFing it because I just got too scared and freaked out, and I was feeling very anxious just living in my own home. It was not fun. I didn't like it. I didn't want to feel those feelings. So I did DNF it, but I do regret DNFing it. So I did find the audiobook at my library, and I think I'll probably borrow that and just listen to it and maybe skip over the creepy parts or listen to it on 2 to 2.5 times speed so that I miss details, if that makes sense, because I really do want to finish it. I want to know how it ends. It just really creeped me out, and I struggled with that, and I probably will struggle with it if I pick it up again, but I don't know. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. Surprisingly, it was very gay too, which was fun. That was a surprising sapphic read I was not expecting for June, but I'm not complaining. So yeah, that was the first book that I DNF'd, and then the other book that I DNF'd is The Summer of Broken Rules. I hated it. That's honestly the only thing. Thought it was bad, main character was annoying, romance was stupid. I personally wouldn't recommend it if you have similar taste to me. However, also, everybody's taste is different. You're never gonna have someone who you 100% have the same taste as. So if it is something that looks interesting to you, definitely still pick it up because who knows, you might like it. But yeah, those two are the DNFs that I had this month. Overall, it was a pretty good month. I'm not upset by it at all. It was really weird going into this video though, because obviously I just look on my story graph and I look at my reviews and I basically just reiterate my thoughts. So that's how I prep for these videos. But I couldn't remember what books I read this month. But yeah, good month. Forgetful month somehow, but good. Honestly, Frieda is my highlight. I still think Heir of Fire deserves to be my favorite though, because the only thing I remember was the high that book left me on, and that was insane. I'm also seeing that I've been recording for 22 minutes, so much for making a short video. Sorry. I like talking. How was your month? Did you also forget everything you read? Is it just in the air? Let me know. If you like me or my videos, I would really appreciate a like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye.